Welcome to another edition of Boston Sports Nuts. This is our Super Bowl preview.
Oh, man.
NFC, AFC Championship review. And what's happened with our local team lately review. So, welcome to the show. I'm joined by my good friends Paul Izzo.
Good to be here, boys.
And Ken Berman.
Guys, this isn't a 24-hour show, is it?
No.
Okay.
Just to clear that up in case the viewers were curious. So let's start with the championship games. And let's go with the headliner. Let's go with the main event because a lot of people are talking about it. So let's go with it first. Paul, before we get into all the questionable calls and all that, what was your general impression of the Chiefs-Bills game? Was it a classic?
No. I think that, it's funny. Patrick Mahomes deserves all the praise he gets for his ability to win. But he's not the classic quarterback that excites you. He's not throwing the long bombs. He's not leading the team. He's just doing everything it takes to win games. Yeah. Josh Allen, on the other hand, is, I think, in some ways a more compelling guy to watch, but he just can't get by the Chiefs. No. I was looking back at the history of the National Football League. There's really nothing that's happened like this before. I mean, Peyton Manning came up against the Patriots, but it wasn't 4 times. He had to get by 03, 04, and then he started winning.
Right, then he started beating us.
It's really an amazing story that they just keep losing to the Chiefs. But, I thought the game was interesting, compelling. I have a few things to say about the officiating. But as an NFL game, I didn't think it was that exciting.
Ken, was it a classic?
I don't know. It didn't go down as a classic for me. I knew before the game started that Kansas City was going to win and Buffalo had no chance because something was going to go right for Mahomes and the Chiefs. Calls, weird play, something. And it did. And they won by, 3 points, 32-29, as I think if you wanted to bet on it, would have been a good bet. He's a great – you can't take anything away from Mahomes. He's a great winner. He doesn't have his best offense this year, and he's winning. So, and by the way, I always think of Buffalo as the 4 Super Bowls in a row loss. I feel like we're going through it again.
Yeah.
For them.
Well, it's an AFC version of it.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But what is with that team?
Well, based on what Paul said, Mahomes is Russell and Allen's Chamberlain. It just took Wilt so long to finally get a win against Russell. Okay, Paul, you ready? Let's tee it up. Let's go for it because everybody's talking about it. Well, every fan of the NFL anyway. Let's talk about the officiating. Go.
Okay, so if you follow social media, if you listen to national sports radio, the major story coming out of the weekend, I would say, has been the officiating.
Yeah.
And whether the Kansas City Chiefs are being intentionally favored in these games or not. I think the more interesting question is not whether the NFL is fixed, because I really don't think it's fixed. I think the NFL doesn't care about the controversy. I think that the NFL looks at it and says, if people are talking about our sport and people are watching the games, we really don't care if part of the story is the officiating. We're not going to change the way we do things. We're happy with the way it is. And they probably look at it and say, if Josh Allen if we declare that a first down, everybody in Kansas City's upset. If we declare it that he's short, everybody in Buffalo's upset. So we can't win. So we're not going to worry about it. That's why they don't address it. That's why they don't really try to fix it. They don't care if their network announcer, who's a former official, disagrees with them.
Right. Yeah.
They just move on to the next game and turn on the cameras and show it. I think it's become part of the game.
So the follow-up, though, Ken, is there something to address?
Wow, that's a really good question. Is there something to address? I know. I think people are sick of more and more replays. So, laser beams being, can we put a laser beam in across the line or something like, what can we? But one thing with Paulson, which I don't think the NFL. I think that's the NFL in whole. They don't care what's going on with anybody else anywhere. They are who they are, and they know everybody's talking about them, and that they're the number one sport, and they're bringing in the most money. So, hey, if they're talking about controversial plays and calls during the game, okay, yeah.
Well, with all the technology on social media, people are putting on X and they're putting the bars along and they're showing the ball going over the bar. And for me, I really, in my heart of hearts, don't think there's anything to address. I think it's one of those things, but that's just me. However, it's been an extraordinary run of calls for the Chiefs. I don't think there's any denying it. And, it is true that, hey, shouldn't let it get to fourth down. But you know what? The Chiefs shouldn't have let it get fourth down under that rationale either. And even though it's not 100%, the refs got it wrong. Really.
We just want them to get it right.
We want them to get it right, and they got that wrong, which would have given the Bills a first down with still over 2 minutes to go. And it's disheartening as a fan in that respect, that in a big game like that, they got it wrong, probably.
Wasn't there other calls they thought?
Well, there was did Worthy catch the ball?
Oh,
okay.
No,
the ball touched. I thought he caught the ball.
Yeah.
I didn't think either the Worthy catch or non-catch or the Allen first down play in the heat of battle, not after we've watched it 8 times with 32 different angles. In neither case did I think that's an egregious non-call or call. For example, in the NFC Championship game a few years ago, when there was a non-call on an obvious pass interference,
that was egregious.
Everybody in the universe said, the team got screwed. In the New Orleans game, I didn't think either call rose to that level, frankly.
But my feeling on that is nowadays we can watch it 8 or 9 times, and they did, and I think they got the first down call wrong, and I think they got the other call wrong because I think the ground helped him secure the ball. And whenever I see the nose of a football hit the ground and the guy's hands aren't like this, I always thought that it's an incomplete pass.
Gene thought so. My thing on that play was I think it could have gone one of 3 ways. I think it could have been a catch for the Bills. I think it could have been a catch for the Chiefs, and I think it could have been incomplete. So I didn't find that was egregious. I also think the Chiefs would have scored anyway on that sequence and actually left Buffalo with less time. However, I think the other one, it's not egregious, but boy, people, one ref's call doesn't decide a game. Yes, sometimes it does. Mm-hmm. And it just seems like the Chiefs are getting those. But I don't think there's any grand conspiracy. I don't
think it's rigged. I'm with you. I don't think this is rigged.
No, I don't
think it's rigged.
But I think Paul's right. I don't think the NFL cares because it keeps the sport. I mean, look at all the stuff on social media. People are into it.
Well, people keep saying that the NFL has to adopt the technology. But forgive the cliche. I hate this cliche. Where do you draw the line? Okay. We're going to use technology to determine a first down. We're going to put a chip in the nose of the football or something like that. Yeah. Okay, well, that's not going to solve the Worthy catch thing. Right. That's not going to solve a pass interference call.
Can't solve
That's
anything.
not going to solve, did his toe hit the line on the sideline or not hit this line on the side. There was one of those at some point in the game. Did he actually touch the sideline? The fact of the matter is the tight end did not catch the ball in the closing seconds of the game.
Right.
That would have possibly, at minimum, tied the game for Buffalo or possibly won it if they could get in the end zone. And if I'm a Buffalo fan, I'm sure that I would complain about the officiating, but I'd be more upset that my tight end dropped a ball that was very catchable.
Well, I think I heard Belichick on the radio say, something to that effect that, hey, Kansas City just makes the play at the big time, and Buffalo didn't. And that ball was catchable. I'm sorry. I think you said when we were watching the game,
No one disputes it was catchable.
Right.
I mean, it was right there.
Right. You said, you think Edelman would have not caught that? Of course he would have in that moment.
Yeah.
Would Wes Welker have?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Well, didn't Welker?
He
I
dro-
thought that was a tough catch for Welker. all
Oh, it
those
was
years
above
ago.
his head and behind
Yeah, I
him.
thought that was a little unfair for him.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah, I
that
did
was
too.
not one of Brady's
But
greatest
but,
passes.
but
Right.
you're right, Paul. That what's his name? Kincaid from Buffalo.
Yeah.
You got to make that catch. The ball wasn't even like a rocket. It was floating to him.
Yep. It was right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I think he probably just misjudged it because it
Stumbled a
was
little bit, too.
floating. But yeah, no, he's got to. But on the other hand, it's one more play, and the great Tommy Heinsohn used to say, "There's a third team on the field, on the court, and it's the officials."
Yeah.
And Buffalo could have won anyway. You guys are absolutely right. They could have with Kincaid.
If you're an NFL official at the New York, what do you expect? What I would say to the fans, what do you want us to do? You want us to call the officials and say, "Hey, start calling calls against the Chiefs"?
Right.
That's equally as scandalous.
Yeah, no, you
Like,
can't do that.
yeah.
I think that this is something that has become more of a PR problem than an actual problem. But Jim's in politics as a professional. PR problems are problems.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily matter whether it's legit or not. With all this gambling going on in the NFL,
Yeah.
and all the money now that's being openly bet, and they're talking about the lines during the games and the pre-games and the post-games, and even during the games they allude to it at times. The NFL needs to be careful that I think what you're going to see is more technology and more eye-in-the-sky officiating to make sure these calls are right. I've told this story a million times. The NFL actually considered having electronic 10-yard markers,
Right.
but the marketing department of the NFL overruled it because the chains are part of the game. Get electronic chains. Let's be done with this.
Right. Yeah.
Let's
It's time.
it's time.
All right, with that said, I'd just like to say I don't want to take anything away from what Kansas City does, and we'll talk about more of their great run.
Yeah,
in
but
our
by the
Super
way,
Bowl
just to finish
preview.
up that game, Jim, do we think the better team won?
Yeah, because they
I
got
do.
Mahomes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the better quarterback won.
Yeah.
Is Allen the MVP this year? Maybe.
Maybe.
Does he have some skills Patrick Mahomes doesn't have? Look, Patrick Mahomes is a winner.
Yeah.
How can we deny that? He's
Yeah.
a winner.
All right, the other game was Washington at Philly.
That was a nail-biter.
Ken, what'd you think of that one?
Well, it was close. I mean, I was sweating it out at the end, hoping Washington would pull it out. But no, the Eagles were just by far the better team. I mean, Saquon Barkley is having a year for the ages. I mean,
Really?
his first touch of the game, 60 yards for a touchdown. He had 3 touchdowns, and Hurts had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
No, they're a good team. They just rolled over them.
Yeah, tremendous offensive line.
Yeah.
And Barkley, this is a rematch of 2 years ago, and Barkley was not on the team.
That's
so
right.
That's going to be very
Well, it's
interesting.
interesting
What did
how
you think of the game, Paul?
I thought it was interesting. I mean, it was exciting to see a rookie quarterback in a conference championship game.
Yep, he's
It's something
a good
we
player.
haven't seen that many times. And he's the real deal. Now, does he have the physique and the stamina to continue doing what he does, which is he runs the football a lot, but he steps up in the pocket. He seems to make a lot of the throws. I like watching him.
Yeah.
Jim and I, we text back and forth. Oh, Chad Ryland,
Right.
we
Yeah,
might
why?
have had Jaden
Yeah, I was going to
Daniels.
just mention that.
I mean, Jaden Daniels is more kind of in that Lamar Jackson school, and Drake May's a little bit more in the Josh Allen school. I think Drake, we don't really know how good Drake May is yet, but
Right.
no. Jaden Daniels was fun to watch. The better team won the game, though. Philadelphia's
Yeah, I think
clearly the better
that
team.
sums it up. Is that the better
They
team?
were much
they were
better
much
team.
better. Paul just said it. I was gonna do a little round table here.
Yeah.
Right now,
Yeah.
knowing what you know,
I know.
Chad Ryland
I don't know much.
cost the Patriots the number 2 pick last year.
Yeah.
Would you take Jaden Daniels, knowing what we know right now
Oh,
over
yeah.
Drake May?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, I would, because he's proven that he can be a winner in the National Football League.
Right. He's
That
had one
doesn't-
of the. go
That
ahead.
doesn't mean Drake May can't do it.
Right,
we
we
just
don't-
don't know.
I mean, he's had one of the greatest rookie quarterback seasons of all time.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he was amazing this year.
Yeah.
And by the way, a team that was not all that good last year.
No. I agree, but the answer, as I think you implied, Paul, could easily change in 3 years. This isn't an answer we can give definitively after 1 year.
But you prefaced it with right now.
Yeah,
so.
right now. That's why I asked. Would
Yeah.
you do it right now? So,
By the way, Drake May just named to play in the Pro
Yeah,
Bowl?
Pro
Yeah.
Or-
yeah.
Alternate. Yeah.
And we'll get more to this in our Patriots segment, but people who don't want low draft picks,
Especially in
I'm
that
not over
short-
that final game. But anyway, let's the Patriots, which we can talk about later. But let's get to our Super Bowl preview.
Okay.
We got the Chiefs, who will be going for a three-peat. And we got the Eagles, who, as I think we all agree.
By the way, Jim, as you know, never ever done before.
We're going to get to that, Ken. We are going to get to
I
that.
love when we get to that.
All right. And the Eagles, who I think we all agree put in a dominating performance. Paul, who do you like? What do you see?
I can't bring myself to pick the Eagles to win this game. Now, it's interesting how close the line is. The public has the game close, 1.5, 1 point, 2 points. I just think Kansas City's on a roll. Kansas City has over a dozen consecutive wins in one-score games, which is
I think it's 16.
yeah,
now.
which is
I could be wrong.
No, which is an
think you're right.
almost unimaginable statistic that you would win that many close games in a row. So if what the public is saying is, and Vegas is agreeing, is that it's going to be a close game, I don't see why I would pick Philadelphia. Kansas City has the superior coaching. Kansas City has the experience. Kansas City has the more experienced postseason quarterback.
Yeah.
What Philadelphia has is Saquon Barkley, but running backs usually don't determine Super Bowl wins.
Exactly.
It's usually big plays and coaching. So I'm going to go with Kansas City by 7.
Can we just rerun what I said about Kansas City versus Buffalo? Because
Go.
Kansas City's going to win the Super Bowl by 2 or 3 points because Mahomes going to make a play that Hurts doesn't. I give the edge to Kansas City because I think in this one game, I think Mahomes is way better than Hurts as a quarterback. And in the Super Bowl, if I'm going to pick one team, I'm going to pick the team that has the better quarterback. And I think Mahomes is a much better quarterback than Hurts.
My take on this is Philly, and I don't claim to be a football game plan expert by any means, but it seems to me Philly's chance is that dominating offensive line that they have. Their offensive line is probably better than Kansas City's, which is great. It's dominating. If they can dominate, back to John Brody, the point of attack for you old people like me, then they got a shot because they got a great running back, and the quarterback's a great runner who's willing to run.
Yep.
So I think they got a shot because they can control the time of possession. Having said that, I agree with Ken's analysis that it'll come down to and the Chiefs will make the play, Mahomes will make the play, and he'll go on to cement his pursuit to be the greatest football player of all time. So it'll be another.
Yeah, it'll be a real feather in that cap to be the first 3 people.
But I have 2 other points about this game. The first is a question for you guys, and this is taken from the Boston media during the latter part of the Patriots' great run, and especially after Tom Brady left. And my question to you guys is, Andy Reid justifiably gets a lot of credit for the Chiefs' success, but my question is, can Andy Reid win a Super Bowl without Patrick Mahomes? Because all we heard for the last 5 years is Bill Belichick can't win without Tom Brady. Now, Andy Reid coached the Eagles. I think he made 1 Super Bowl, didn't win it. He lost NFC Championship games. He won division. Can he win without Mahomes?
Well, can I answer that question with a question?
Yeah, of course.
Can Patrick Mahomes leave the Kansas City Chiefs at age 42 and win a Super Bowl with another team?
Well, that we don't know, but Andy Reid has a history.
Well, Andy Reid, to me, as I think back, was the guy who couldn't manage the clock at the end of games. He was just going to lose every time because he didn't know the time and space and equilibrium of the world. I mean, and then he got to Kansas City and got Mahomes, and now he's some people are saying, he's the greatest coach of all, by far the greatest offensive coach of all time. And the defensive coordinator is the greatest defensive coordinator of all
Steve
time.
Spagnuolo.
Now,
Steve
now
Spagnuolo.
Paul asked, actually, this is a 3-part question. Paul asked part 2, so we've covered that. Part 3 is this. Can Steve Spagnuolo, a now recognized defensive genius, who to give Paul credit, they always say, is going to dial something up.
Gonna dial
I'll
something
give Paul
up.
credit on that one. The defensive genius
I thought it
is
was
me
draw
and
something up. It's
No,
dial
dial.
something.
Dial is me and some other friends. But can he win a Super Bowl without either A, Andy Reid, or B, Patrick Mahomes? Because I believe he was a head coach maybe for a year and was also Reid's defensive coordinator in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
So can he win without Reid and or Mahomes?
That's a very, very good question. These are all great questions.
Yeah.
Only history will answer these
That's
questions.
correct. I'm going to go out on a limb and say no.
The reason I bring
I'm
this
going
up
no.
is the absolute foolishness of the Brady Belichick question, to which the great Red Auerbach, once when he was asked could he win without Bill Russell, he was like, what's the point?
What's the point?
Yeah, so that was that. Now, my one other take before we go to our local team is this. Ken brought it up earlier. Nice tease, Ken. This is being dubbed as the Chiefs' the chance to get a three-peat.
Championship.
Oh, how
in
great is
NFL.
this? Let me say, for those of us who value National Football League history and who believe that the National Football League did not start in 1967 or 66, the season of the first Super Bowl. Super Bowls in 67.
It didn't start in the very first Super Bowl?
No.
Jim?
There was an NFL before that.
Wow.
And
Who knew?
in 1929, 1930, and 1931, the Green Bay Packers won the NFL championship.
Three-peat.
That was a three-peat. Exactly. And guess what?
Did they do it again?
That same franchise won the NFL championship in 1965, 1966, and 1967, which happened to be the first Super Bowl. For those of us who were around then, recall that it was not called the Super Bowl. It was the NFL or AFL championship game or AFL-NFL championship game. So there have been 2 three-peats. This will be an extraordinary accomplishment, but it will be the 3rd three-peat. And I hope that Kevin Burkhardt or Tom Brady or whoever does their sideline or the 19 or 20 people who do the pregame show these days, it's actually going to be about 5 or 6, right?
Easily.
Mention this. I'm not betting my house that they will. So, having said that, let us segue to our local team.
By the way, can I just chime in on that?
Of course.
Yes.
I didn't know anyone wanted to comment on it. Go,
That was
please.
an anti-chime comment
Please,
that he made.
please.
I hope they do. It needs to be mentioned. The National Football League started like 1,000 years ago. I mean, yes, the Super Bowl has grown each year to this incredible
Global.
powerhouse. Yeah, but we remember watching games from before the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And the Green Bay
Absolutely.
Packers were the greatest thing since sliced
They
bread.
are still the greatest franchise in National Football
They're not
League
better than
history.
sliced bread, but they were good.
They're the
Sliced bread's
yeah.
very important.
And if you're a
Yes,
Packer
that's true.
fan,
And napkins.
you know, having this ignored to me is just...
I think what the announcers will say is the first three-peat of the Super Bowl era.
Yeah, that would be technically true, but I just think,
The Super Bowl
you know,
Era,
all right,
yeah.
let's wipe out the 5 championships the Minneapolis Lakers won because it was not in the 1960s.
Yeah,
you know, I
right,
mean, it's
yeah. Oh, I'd be for
ridiculous.
that.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's true.
All right.
It shouldn't count as Los Angeles Lakers championships.
By the way, we're going to do a whole show on the 1914 Boston Braves.
There you go.
Ooh.
That's coming up for you folks.
Can I
Write
Google that?
Yeah.
that.
All right. Let's segue to our local team, which, of course, is the New England Patriots. And we haven't had a show since an awful lot of things happened. Paul, you want to give us a little review and your take on what's been going on down in Foxborough?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a new head coach. Did you guys know that? His name is Mike Vrabel. Look, I feel badly for Gerard Mayo on a personal level. Seems like a decent guy, family man, father. But I think we needed to make a change at the New England Patriots. I think Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels, Williams, the defensive coordinator, these are adults. These are guys with mileage on their tires, years under their belt, whatever you want to say, that have coached in the National Football League for a combined 25, 30, 40, 50 years, and are going to have a greater likelihood of success with a young rebuilding team than a rebuilding group of coaches. If you look at what the Patriots had, Gerard Mayo, rookie coach, DeMarcus Covington, rookie defensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, experienced coach but never had called plays before.
First time, yeah.
Dante Hightower, rookie assistant coach. I mean, that just went right down the line.
The whole staff was like first years
Yeah.
in their positions.
Yeah. Now, are we all happy with the new arrangement for drafting players? I actually am, because, and I agree with Mike Felger on this one, to make a dramatic change in your scouting and general managing during the winter. I mean, this is when you've already got all your films, all your reports, all your scouting reports. You're getting ready for the draft. You're getting ready for free agency. That's not the time to do it. I think you're stuck with what you have now. I think the more important question is, how much power does Mike Vrabel have? And I think he has a lot of power. Yeah. So I trust him. It's a big move for the Patriots, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm glad they got him. He was my first choice when they sacked Mayo and they wanted to get a new head coach. He just seems to have command of the room. I think he'll put things back in order. I'm way more optimistic about going forward now than I was at the end of last season. And I have no problem with Josh McDaniels coming back. I think, like you said, he's proven. He had a great year with Mac Jones. I mean, so if you can do that, you know what you're doing. They just hired, Doug Maroney, another experienced Marone. He's put a good staff together, Vrabel,
Yeah.
and I think, I don't know, I would say, hey, Mike, we're deciding between this guy and this guy for our pick. Who do you think? That's who they're going to pick.
Yeah, I first of all, I agree with you guys that this was the move. It had to be done, and he's the best choice. And his first hires, I think, have been very, very good.
Yeah.
Two other points. One is, I did not like the way that shortly after his press conference, after that abominable disgrace to the team, their alumni, the fans, and the game at football itself, due credit to the great Bill Walton for that analysis, who unfortunately passed away last year. And if you're a basketball fan, you might know that reference, that win. But to fire him, I don't know, half an hour after that press conference, I think, as Paul said, this appears to be a very good man. And I did not like the way they did that. It seemed to me that, hey, we got to get off this. We got to get off all this negativity, and including the negativity of winning that game. I don't know if I'm right on that, but I just thought they could have waited till the traditional Monday,
Black Monday,
to do it, as other teams waited. But hey, be that as it may, just my opinion. I don't have any facts on why they did it. My second point would be this. Now that the coaching to me is straightened out, I still don't know who their Brad Stevens is. And I think the most important thing on the agenda right now, other than the staff, is what they do with that number 4 pick. Is it going to be, we pick it? Are we going to get, multiple? A Red Auerbach type trade, or Bill Fitch, where you trade down to get the player you really want and get assets, which Danny Ainge did to get Jason Tatum. He would have been their first pick probably. They traded down from 1. Red traded down from 1 to get Kevin McHale. Unfortunately, Trading down from 1 is not an option right now. But what they do with their pick, keep it, trade it, is the key to the future of the franchise. And frankly, a key. And frankly, the performance last year in the draft was not good. So all this method stuff and analytical stuff seems very NFL to me. I think it's very important who makes the pick. So if it's Vrabel, I'm happy.
All right, I want to address the number 1 pick. You just alluded to the fact that it's very unfortunate that they lost. They won the last game, and as a result, they moved from having the number 1 pick to the number 4 pick. And I agree with you, but I just want to tap the brakes on that a little bit. There is no consensus number 1 pick. If there were a number 1 pick, if there were a Caleb Williams or a Peyton Manning or a whoever that was absolutely positively the number 1 pick, that would have been a disaster, because you'd be looking at a situation where you could easily get 1 or 2 number 1s for that pick. You could possibly get a player for that pick, move down, and now you have all this draft capital. The way it's actually working out, Shedeur Sanders has fallen way down. Some people now see him. Some people thought he'd be the number 1 pick as a quarterback.
Right.
Some people see him as a second-round pick. Like, he's not performing well in the postseason. He's not performing well in the workouts. His film in the postseason bowl game was not good. So that's gone out of the equation. The other kid, Cam Ward, people have questions about him. They're not sure. The teams ahead of the Patriots, the teams that would have been right behind the Patriots, therefore, if the Patriots had the number 1 pick, the teams right below them might necessarily not have thought, well, we really don't have to trade up to get this guy. Mm-hmm. He may fall to us because we know the Patriots don't need a quarterback.
Right.
So I think that it's possible, believe it or not, that being at 4 is not a bad place to be, because you may see players other than quarterbacks get taken. The kid out of Penn State, the really good linebacker, one of these great wide receivers. Now you're at 4, where the quarterback is going to cost a little less money in salary, and you might be able to trade down at that point. All I'm saying is that I think it's not turning out to be the disaster that it looked like in the last day of the year.
And I think your case is well made, but I disagree, because if these quarterbacks fall out, it's all the more important that you would have been 1. Because if your choice is Abdul Carter from Penn State, he's not going to be there for you now, because the quarterbacks, if you're right, have fallen out. If your choice is the two-way player, you're not going to get him now. If your choice is the big wide receiver, you're not going to get him now. If your choice is Will Campbell, who might be the top offensive lineman, you might not get him now. So you're stuck with, hey, these guys, if Sanders is a second pick, nobody's going to trade second round. Nobody's going to trade up to 4 to pick him.
Well, no, but Jim, there were 4 or 5 very good non-quarterbacks at the top of the draft.
That's the point.
No, but my point is, if you got Will Campbell, Abdul Carter, you got those 2 wide receivers, that's 4 guys. They're at 4.
Paul, it's always better to pick yourself than okay, we're going to let these 3 drop, and now we're going to get stuck with the 4th one. What if they don't like?
Well, nobody denies that it wouldn't be better to be at number 1.
I think this is
I'm saying this is not. All I'm saying, give me credit. All I'm saying is that if credit, if it were Peyton Manning at the top and people were salivating over Peyton Manning and everybody wanted Peyton Manning, it would be an epic disaster, because now you could have traded it for multiple picks.
If you want to compromise, this is not 100% disaster. I'll put it at 75, because I still say, if you want Carter, if you think Carter is the next Lawrence Taylor, now you have no chance to get him. Yeah. You're going to have to trade up.
Well, it's more like a Micah Parsons, but I get your point.
Okay, Micah Parsons. I just think this was.
Who's got 1 and 2 and 3? I don't even know the draft order, but I guarantee you, 1 or 2 is definitely taking a quarterback,
which will help them.
It always happens. Someone in the top. If you have the 1 or 2 pick, you're taking a quarterback. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's. If that doesn't happen, I'll be shocked.
They're going to get a player.
And I will give you the credit you want, is that if this was Peyton Manning, it's 100% disaster, because not only would you be able to trade that pick, as we've seen in basketball history, you might want to trade Drake May.
Yeah, you might want to take Peyton Manning at the top if he was available.
That's right.
Yeah, because, you know, in retrospect, I've always said this for the basketball junkies out there. When the Houston Rockets took Hakeem Olajuwon, who was the consensus number 1, they also had Ralph Sampson. The number 2 pick in that draft was Sam Bowie out of Kentucky, a big man who got injured and didn't do much for Portland. I always thought, with 2020 hindsight, what if Houston traded Ralph Sampson? Portland would have certainly taken him for the number 2 pick because he was proven and better than Bowie. Houston could have taken Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
That would have been Olajuwon and Jordan. The Celtics' record of 8 in a row would have been in deep trouble. Anyway, so I see Paul's point on that. Okay.
Okay, can I just say one more thing about that?
Yeah.
All right, you go ahead.
I just want to say that all I'm concerned about this upcoming. First of all, I think Vrabel makes the pick. I'm going to put you at ease, Jim. Vrabel has final say. Okay, over all the whatever you were talking about. Can they nail 2 picks out of this draft that can play? That's all I want. Number 4 can get you a great player. Get me a great player. Get me one other really good player. Sign 2 good free agents, and I think we got a football team.
And let's stress the importance of that, because remember, they tied for 4th and got the tiebreaker, which means I think it ended up as a 3-way tie. Forgive me, viewers, if I'm wrong. That means they'll pick 4 in the first round, probably 6th in the second round, and 5th in the third round. It is crucial, as Ken said, which they did not do last year.
Right.
Which is why I really, Ken, you're reassuring me that Vrabel will make the pick. Which is why when you had the 3rd pick, and I think some rounds you had the 2 pick, to get 1 player is just...
Well, a couple of things. Number 1, it's not just who makes the pick. Because by the time you get in the room with the names, your pick is going to be based on how you evaluated them in the interviews and the scouting and the film study. So you're not going to pick somebody who you haven't thought in the scouting, evaluating, and film study is a good player. So that's where the rubber meets the road, and that's what we don't know. It's great if Vrabel makes the pick. I'm happy about that. The question is their analytics department, is their scouting department, is their film study department, are those things great? The other thing I want to say before we wrap up.
Before you wrap that up,
yeah,
I think you're right. It's just, I do think it's important who is the one that says, okay, with all of this information,
oh yeah,
what do we do?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah, but you could
huge
stack
part of
the
that.
deck against the player. You know, all right, Mike, you make the call. This guy that we think can't play, or this guy we think can
hopefully
play.
they wouldn't do that intentionally. I don't think they do
The
that.
other thing is, I'm going to mention. I mentioned it a few weeks ago. I'm mentioning it again, and I don't care because this is our show. I'm going to mention it as many times
I don't
as I
care
want.
either. Go.
I think Joe Milton can play. And all these people that say, oh, he was playing against second and third stringers, it doesn't matter. You still have to make the throws. You still have to scramble out of trouble. You still have to make the right decisions. You still have to not make mistakes. He played a near flawless game. If he played that game in a preseason game against lower competition, people would have said, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay? So I think he can play, and I think he deserves a legit shot in training camp, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets it.
Shouldn't we be upset he played so good?
Yeah. And
Okay.
as I
I'd
said,
cut him just for that alone.
no, and as I said, it's never the player's fault in a game like that. It's the coaches.
Absolutely.
And upstairs, where the game plan, when they saw how well he was playing, they should have handed the ball off, and they should not have had Gibson in the game. But be that as it may, I agree. I think Milton can play.
Yep.
And I think
He looked good.
I think going forward, this is another question. Who is their Brad Stevens? Because you're not going to be able to keep both of these guys. And before they're able to go on their own, you've got to get, if we're right, and Milton can play, you've got to get something for one of them. You've got to, number one, pick who it is. And 2, you've got to get something for the other guy. You cannot let him be a free agent. This is an asset, as they say, and they got to get something. So to me, it goes back to who is their Brad Stevens.
But if they trade Joe Milton, say for a third-round pick, which I don't think they'd get a third-round pick.
Right.
But let's say they did.
Yeah.
Some team goes, let's give him a shot. We'll trade a third-round pick. And he turns out to be a starter in the National Football League. That's a problem.
Yeah, but it's
Quarterbacks are rare and valuable.
but you cannot keep two that are that good. How do you do that?
Well, I think you have a
will
legit
eventually
competition.
leave.
If I'm Mike Vrabel, I say, Drake may look good. Not great. He showed a lot of promise. He's not a star. I'm starting over. I got 2 young guys, one with a gun for an arm, one with more experience. I'm having a competition.
Who also throws very well.
I'm having a
Yeah,
competition.
I'm hoping
Get
that's
over
what
it.
he's going to
Yeah,
do.
Get over it, boys.
That's step one. That's fine. What if Milton wins the job?
Yeah, but we're at step 1.
Yeah, no, but the long term is that if he's if he's your choice, okay, if he's beat out Drake May, I don't have a problem with that. What do I care? I want the best quarterback. What do you get for Drake May? Who's gonna make who's gonna make the hour back deal?
I don't know.
And
You're
when does
right
it
that
happen?
we don't know that.
And that you've always said this. You've said, where is their organization? What's the thing?
Patriots
You've said
don't have
this.
someone in charge.
You've
at the
said
top.
this for months. How long have we done this show?
Yeah.
For months. This, to me, is one of the most crucial decisions. Look, they're not winning a Super Bowl in year 1 of Vrabel or in year 2 of Vrabel. Let's be honest. So what you get for that other asset is going to be huge. Look what Red got. Look what he got. Look what Danny Ainge got. What is fill in the blank gonna get if Joe Milton is the starter?
Or does Vrabel decide that Drake May is my starter? I like Joe Milton. Quarterbacks always get injured. They're under my control at a very little bit amount of money
You can
right
do that
now.
for 3 or 4 years, Ken. I want to go all the way. You can do that for 3 or 4 years, then one of them's going to take off.
I know,
well-
but we've gone down this rabbit hole about
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that the entire rest of the Boston media would think we were all insane to be even having this discussion.
Well, then we're all insane
Yeah,
because I think we're all in agreement on this.
because I think the guy showed enough. I have been to hundreds of football games in my lifetime. I can tell when a guy is playing well enough against poor competition that there is something there.
Yeah.
Belichick saw something in Brady that he thought was better than Bledsoe.
And Brady never played against good competition.
And by the way,
Never.
they got a number 1 pick for Bledsoe in their division, which Bill took heat for, but he got a number 1 pick. That's what I want, at least, for one of these guys. And you're right, we're going down a rabbit hole. But the fix of that is now. You've said it. Who's in charge? Who's going to make these initial decisions? Who's going to make the decision? This is Vrabel. Will he make the decision to give him a chance? And 2, what's going to happen? But
All right,
anyway.
let's
We'll
wrap.
get to that.
Okay.
Good
With
discussion.
that, everybody enjoy the Super Bowl this Sunday. Hopefully it's a great game. Hopefully the halftime show is great. For Paul Izzo and Ken Berman, that wraps up another edition of Boston Sports.
24-22 Kansas City.
Thank you for watching Boston Sports Nuts. You can find all of our episodes available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. For more information, go to westwoodmediacenter.tv or follow Boston Sports Nuts on Facebook, Instagram, and X.